Hello, you lovely people out there, and I'm here. And welcome to this video. As usual, I'm going to be talking about motivation, and I usually share the knowledge and the techniques that I use in my online coaching or online clinical hypnotherapy sessions. So, what I'm going to share today is a meta program which is in the brain, and it's away from towards something. So it's just a program. The way something works, it's nor good nor bad, but it's nice to be aware of it if you are thinking of making some changes. So the way it works, let me give you an example. Let's say if someone is being bullied at school or in a relationship or anywhere. So now the motivation is away from, meaning they don't want to be bullied anymore. So they want to be different. So this is their motivation. Away from, meaning they want to be different. They want to be stronger and so on. But the main motivation here is away from. Now, another way of looking at it is a person, they just want to be different. They want to be stronger than they've ever been in their life. So that would be toward something. They want to be a best version of themselves. So they are looking toward who they want to be, even though there is still a slight motivation which is coming from away from, but most of their energy, their attention, their energy is going toward something. This is who they want to be. Now, this is very important. In my experience, what I've seen, that most people spend most of their energy and their time. I'm talking about people who are stuck, who are not succeeding as much as they would like to. So they spend most of their energy thinking about being away from, thinking about whatever it is that they don't want in their life. And sometimes what happens when a person is spending all their energy on being away from, sometimes they get caught up in it. They can't even get out of it. They become depressed and so on, because all their energy is going into this, and they've only got very little energy left to plan a goal or how they want to be different. So really what we need to do, to make this meta program work for us, we need to put 95 or 90% of our energy toward what we want, and only 5 to 10% what we are getting away from. So we are getting away from, let's say, being bullied, and a person is fed up. So we don't really need to think too much. We need to put 90% of our energy and our attention. What do we want in life? Like all the different ways of getting what you want in life. Maybe a person wants to be stronger, and all the different ways a person can be stronger. Now what happens, especially if you do it like this, you never stop. You sort of keep finding different goals to become stronger and stronger and stronger. Now, I'm not saying the other way doesn't work. It does work for some people, when people are moving away from something. But what happens is when you're moving away from something, as long as you move away from it, doesn't matter how much you move, a person stop succeeding. So they don't do anything. So because they've achieved the outcome, the goal they wanted, the idea was to move away from something, it doesn't really matter how much they succeed. Then they stop, and then they end up going back. An example would be someone is trying to lose weight, and they are fed up of being fat, and this is their only motivation. So what they do is they go on a crash diet, and they do find that they lose some weight. And what happens after a couple of weeks or months, they've lost a few pounds or maybe a few kilos. Now their goal is achieved. Or it could even be that they wanted to lose a certain amount. They've even, let's say, lost a stone. So when they lose that, now the motivation is finished. So what they end up doing, what I have found, is they end up putting it back on because that motivation is finished, so they have to get fed up again. So this is why this kind of motivation, it does work. A lot of people do it, but it doesn't last. But doing it the other way is like, okay, like only putting 5% energy into this, you are fed up with being the way you are. But put 95% energy, how do you want to be different, how your life is going to change, what other opportunities. So guys, put all your energy and your attention into, or most of it, 95%. What do you want? Spend all your time on planning and getting the information that you need to achieve your goal, and only 5% into what you are getting away from. Because you know you've had that for a while, whatever it is that you don't want in your life. You don't need to think about it every day, because what happens if you think about it every day, it's going to drag you into it. You're going to become depressed, frustrated, and so on. So you only want to be putting 5% energy into, away from, and 95 toward whatever you want in your life. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Really think about what I've said, and even think about some of your goals that you would like to improve on, and see where you can fit this concept. So have fun, and see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.